Welcome to the Access to Success Podcast, Project Shine Series. I'm your host, Saeed Al-Basha, and with me is author and coach Mike Diamond. This is episode 6 of the season, and even though these episodes are not in any kind of chronological order, make sure you go back and listen to the first 5 just so you can have the full context of some of the things we reference and talk about. All right, so today we'll be dissecting will and skill. And it's not to say you can only choose one. Of course, if you have both, then you're unstoppable. But we're not born with all the skills we need to succeed. A lot of it is learned. Now, some of us are born with some genetic advantages like athleticism or certain smarts or things like that. But if we're not trying to get into athletics, then what can we do to increase our chances of success? And that's what we'll dive into today, including how carving your own path is the most effective way to get ahead. And we introduce a unique way of thinking about talent. And I'm curious if you guys will actually agree or disagree with how we define it today. So let me know at the end. Also, we'll be taking a look at why obsession is not always a bad thing. So hang out, take a listen, make sure you post about this episode if you find some benefit in it. And you can tag myself or Mike D on Instagram. The links are in the show notes, as well as the link to where you can buy Mike's book, The 7 Steps to an Unbreakable Mindset. It's a super easy read, and it goes into even more detail than we do in this podcast. So go check it out. All right, no more waiting. Time to shine. Well, there's something that's been itching, right? Something that we've been talking about, and this is something that we got to shed some light on. Yep. We got to shine on it, so to speak. There's a difference between the people who are talented, naturally gifted, and those who use their will, determination, and resilience to achieve a desired outcome.
Correct.
So it's two camps, because if you're not naturally gifted, you kind of have to rely on your resilience. And there's a certain mindset that you have to have in order to put yourself in a situation where the odds are stacked against you. Yep. Yet you're still capable of
achieving greatness.
So how do we get into that mindset, and what is that mindset? Because it eludes a lot of people.
Well, let's look at it. It's nature versus nurture, right? Nature versus nurture. I have a natural talent, and someone gets nurtured, right? So is it really talent, and what is talent? So let's break it down. Mozart was claimed to be a genius. Mozart's dad was a piano player. First 2 years, Mozart's dad played piano, sat him down next to him for 8 hours a day. So Mozart could see what was being played, neurons that fire together, wire together, Hebbian law. At 3, when he started to coach Mozart, what happened? He kind of knew. He had a relation of what the sounds were and what the notes were. So by 12, he was doing symphonies?
I think that was, yeah.
But the 10,000 hour of intentional training, maybe he had 10,000 hours by 7 years old.
Yeah.
So is that talent, or is that the right environment? Coaching him with intentional training. Let's go to the Renaissance movement. It's been said that Michelangelo and Da Vinci were taken away from their parents at 5 years old, 5, and given masters.
Yeah.
And they apprenticed under masters for 10 years. So at 5 years old, they were learning crafts of how to be great sculptors and painters. So by 15, if you're working every day with a master, are you really a prodigy? Or are you being nurtured and being taught the right skills, and then you're willing enough to become that master and that genius, right?
Yeah.
Conor McGregor talks about obsession, not talent. Not the greatest fighter, he's lost fights, but yet he has this innate ability to keep coming back and outworking people and redefining his skills. Tiger Woods, playing golf for how long? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's when you look at it, right, and you go, okay, is it straight talent? Because I knew kids that I grew up with that may have peaked early. So I watched this beautiful thing with Mike Tyson, and actually it was Lennox Lewis. And they said, did you feel you didn't fight Tyson in his prime? And he said, our primes were different. And they're like, what do you mean? He goes, well, hold on. When I won the world championship, Castamata took Tyson at 16, whatever it was, and said, you'll be the youngest champion. Because Castamata saw he had certain talents and abilities. But he jumped on that really quick and made him work his butt off.
Right.
Right? So he had a mentor. He had Cass. Now, they sparred together, and Lennox hadn't physically matured like Tyson. Tyson, Teddy Atlas said at 12 was 195 pounds. It was a specimen.
Yeah, he was a man before he was a teenager.
Yeah, he was a man-child, right? He was a beast. So therefore, there was a certain amount of natural development. Is that talent, or is that just your body is just developing early, right? So he peaked very early, but he had a horrible back end, right? Up quick, down. Lennox started low, slowly came up. So they sparred when they were kids, and he said, yeah, Tyson was a fucking animal trying to kill me. But the beautiful thing is this. Lennox didn't look at Tyson and say, I have to move faster. He stayed on his journey. You know, he beat Holyfield. Riddick Bowe didn't fight him. I mean, Lennox won. He was a great champion, and he beat the crap out of Tyson in the start when they fought. Now, so was it one was more talented? No, they had different peaks. I went to school with a guy named. Well, no, sorry. There was a guy I grew up with named Fred Martin, who at the time was second in the world. He was that fast, and he was partially deaf. No one could catch him, and he was 18 and ran in the Olympics, same Olympics as Carl Lewis, blew out his hamstring, and there was another guy that was not as good, Dean Capobianco, when he was coming through. Capobianco actually had a better career, but didn't start better.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think there has to be like Larry Bird. Come on. Larry Bird is all will.
For sure. Zero athletics.
Can't run. Can't really like, you know what I mean?
He can't jump as high as the other guys in the NBA.
So I think I honestly say talent it's opinion. Because if you have someone or you have belief and you're willing to pay the price and do the work, I think any skill can be learned over time with the right. Look, let's look at it like this. No one goes into a jiu-jitsu class or a karate class as a black belt.
Right.
Right?
You got to earn it.
You got to start as a white belt. You start somewhere, and then it's your ability. Now, there may be someone there is different people who have different levels of balance.
Sure.
Athleticism.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
Strength.
And that could come from, just your body type and a little bit of genetics. But we've seen it. Like, it doesn't matter where you start up. Someone could, have a really bad upbringing, horrible diet, and then all of a sudden you see them 10 years later, you're like, dude, this guy's a specimen. Have you seen his body? So is that talent?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing. I think we all romanticize the come up, right? Somebody who starts with nothing and achieves a certain level of, success or achievement, breaking world records, whatever it may be. And that story is fascinating for a reason, because it's taking something so minimal and turning it into a big deal. But we've also all known that friend or, someone from high school who did peak in high school, natural talent, just effortlessly floating through life and athletics and sports or whatever it may be, but then just didn't apply themselves.
Didn't do shit.
And that was it.
So I think it's a two thing. I think that we all have a natural, we're born with some basic athleticism. Look, all right, I was naturally a pretty good sprinter, but I didn't mature till really late. So I ran the first 12 years, I was fast as hell. And then when everyone grew, I wasn't as fast. But then by my senior year, I grew 9 inches and I was fast again. But from 12 to like 16, 17, my body just didn't grow. I was really short. I went from 5 foot to 5'9.5" in my senior year.
Wow.
It was like, and then obviously my speed was like ridiculous again. Do you know what I mean? So, but I didn't train back then. I didn't have like mentors. I just ran around and played rugby. But I think that, like for me, if a kid came to me and said, I wanted to, say, do a sport, and I mean, I'm more about the performance coaching than the person. And I'm like, okay, so where are you at now? And they're like, I'm here. And then I went and saw them play. And I go, okay, what's the timeline? Because it, unlike, say it's football. So football, we kind of know you can't just go rogue and, you've got to kind of, there's a system. You go to college and do things. You can't just come out of left field.
Right.
Like, oh, look, did you see this guy? If you show up to I don't know. I don't think you can just show up to an NFL combine and make it.
Yeah.
Right. There's rules.
Right.
But say it was a sport like tennis where you could, learn the craft. It's not like so political, and you started practicing and getting good at it, and then you go out and you do some tournaments and make a name for yourself. Yeah, so I think it's like you start somewhere with a certain amount of athletic ability, but I think the body can. I mean, we look Spud Webb 5'7" dunks, so. I believe that you have to have some kind of ability, yeah, but I believe the mind is stronger than what you're born with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think people use an excuse like he's more talented or she's more talented. I don't believe that.
There's definitely an excuse there. It's easier to say, well, that's because he can jump really high and I can't. So then I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch him as opposed to trying myself.
All right, let me throw this out to you. This is going to go right off topic, but about perception and mindset, okay? And how we choose to believe in what our ability is, will over skill. We won't talk about sport. So here's the story, and it's a true story. There's a guy, and he's a single parent. And they live in the inner city, and it's late. It's about 9 o'clock at night, and he's had a few drinks, and he's got 2 kids. They're twins, and they're neighbor's making noise next door, and it's thin walls like apartments, like in New York. He knocks, please, quiet, be quiet, quiet. The guy, they start screaming at each other, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. He finally gets up, but he gets a shotgun out to threaten the guy. Goes out in the hallway, they have an argument. The 2 twins pop their heads out. Altercation, he kills the guy. Kids are 5 years old. They're separated, put in different foster homes. 10 years go by. The one kid is going to school, kicking ass. The other kid's in trouble. At his foster parents' house, kid's playing music, his older brother, they get in an argument, he goes to the kitchen, gets a knife, kills the kid. Stabs him. So they're 15 now. 20 years go by, they're both 35. They interview them to try to work out in the mind, perception. The guy in prison, he's done, a lot of crazy shit in jail. His life, he's doing life. That's where his life turned out. They interview him and they said, why did your life turn out like this? He says in the answer, do you know where I'm from? The interview goes, yes. He goes, do you know who my dad was? He goes, yes. He goes, what choice did I have? His brother becomes a district attorney. Okay. They interview him. Exactly the same question. His response was, do you know where I'm from? Yep. Do you know who my dad was? Yep. What choice did I have?
Same exact answer.
Exactly the same answer. 2 different perceptions. So I ask you this. When you have a goal or a dream, is your perception I can or I can't? Am I willing to delay the gratification, learn the skills, and do the work no matter the adversity, the environment, and what I'm told? Or am I born with a little bit of an inclination? Am I going to coast on that? Right? Or they say, if talent doesn't work hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
But is talent really defined by a set of rules and standards? And are those standards dated? Because it's perception.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely the different perception or the different perspectives of the two brothers shaped their reality.
Correct.
One of them said, what choice do I have? And went the negative route.
Correct.
The other one looked at it and said, what choice do I have? And went the positive route.
Correct.
Same circumstance, same everything, different mindset.
So, right. So is it will over skill, or is it skill then will? It's a question of mindset.
Yeah.
And there's enough proof to show you when you go into the Navy SEALs, right? There's any special forces, they train you in a way to break your will.
Yeah. They break you down first.
Right?
And then they
and
build
it's
you
not
back
about
up.
skill, is it?
No.
We're going to break your will, and if you can be broken and you can suffer a certain amount of pain, then you are ready to learn the skill. Yeah. So if you've got a bunch of guys that were really skillful and really tough and special and put them in the SEALs, most of them may be broken down. And then you turn around and go, hold on. Is it will and skill, or is it skill? Do you see what I mean? So I think talent is subjectable. I think if you have a clear intention of what you want and you're willing to pay the price and you're willing to do the work and just learn the myelin in your brain and repeat and repeat and repeat and watch and repeat, and you just draw a line. I mean, Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe Bryant came out of high school and realized, he went straight into the NBA and got smashed and realized the work he had to do to be professional.
Yeah.
Now, he definitely had a certain amount of ability, but he realized to get to that next level, there was a big gap. So do most people think, well, that person's more talented, or is that an excuse?
That's an excellent question. There's something you said earlier that I want to unpack because it's extremely important. And you said that the talent or the skill can be learned if we're willing to put in the work and learn the skills and so on. Nobody is born with the ability to play the piano or the guitar, or nobody comes into the jiu-jitsu class knowing all the skills. These things are refined, and there's a certain level of discipline that you have to apply these and do them daily in order to
be successful.
Be successful in the fruitful outcome. In today's age, I think we're so used to the click and instant gratification thing that it's a little more rare to see somebody who's really focusing in and narrowing honing their skills. What is it that has to be true in order for us to adopt this mentality?
I think there's got to be sequence as well, because we all learn differently. So say, for example, someone's parents were musically inclined. Therefore, the environment was set up to play a lot of music. Maybe they had a lot of music and they had a lot of associations to music and they understood what music was, right? So therefore, your environment is setting you up with a little bit of information. So when you hear something, you have a reference. Say there's another kid that's never picked up an instrument, but in his gut, he thinks, I'd like to do that. Okay. But because he can't pick it up the first go, he's brushed aside. But what he does is he takes it on his own accord and grabs a guitar and grabs some books and starts to listen to the people he likes and starts to play along. And instead of quitting after the first 3 chords, he's like, I'm just going to figure this shit out. And I'm going to keep playing until I figure it out. Now, what happens if that kid plays 10 hours a day and he's that determined, and the only thing in his diet is watching his idols and playing like them and moving like them and breathing like them and feeling like them, and he just becomes obsessed with that? Is there a chance he becomes good at it?
Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, is that talent? Talent's not noticeable. I'll tell you why. Gary Oldman, one of our great actors, did an audition at RADA. They're like, you'll never act again. Did he take that as information? No, he went and got an agent, and he's probably done better than all the people that maybe got into the acting class with him. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think talent is subjectable.
Yeah.
And I think if you get the right mentor or coach, or you can visualize it. Now, all right, here's a perfect example. Gymnastics.
Yeah.
They do a thing where they grab, in the Eastern Bloc countries, they used to grab kids that I think they did a test where if a kid could do a handstand at 5 years old, they put him straight in gymnastics. Okay? So that means if he had 5, he could hold his body weight a certain way. So it's worth coaching him at that age, because at gymnastics you've got to start it young to have the flexibility and maintain it. You can't. Very hard to start gymnastics at an older age. It's got a very,
when your bones are developed and a little more
and
rigid.
it doesn't. It's not making sense. Do you know what I mean? So so then you go, okay, but what happens is if there was a kid that didn't pass that test, right? And at 5 was around, liked to do flips, and then he had someone around him that spent time with him every day, stretching him and working with his body, right? And then spending hours and hours and hours mentoring and pushing, would that person become talented?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you know why? The American system wasn't like the European system, but then they caught on afterwards. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's all subjectable to, first of all, it's a mindset. I think it's all about mindset. I think it's about building resilience. I think it's about building grit. I think it's about saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful. And then closing the gap, learning the skills, be determined. Draw a line in the sand. Like, I'm not going to David Goggins is the perfect example. David Goggins was 100 pounds overweight, was spraying for cockroaches, went and saw a thing on Navy SEALs, said, fuck it, I'm going to lose 100 pounds in 3 months, try and get into the Navy SEALs. Failed on his first attempt, went back, failed on the second attempt. The third attempt had shin splints, broken bones in his feet, and got in on the third time. This guy pushed his way through, and then after pushing his way through, he decided to, he wanted to raise money for people in the ex-Navy SEALs, and he entered, and he wanted to do the most extreme race, which is Badwater. The reason it's so bad is it starts at the lowest point and goes through Death Valley in summer, ends at the highest point. When it talks about altitude, it's 134 miles.
Jeez.
So to enter it, you have to have qualified and done a 100-mile race. So Goggins called the guy, and the guy goes, well, have you ran any marathons? He goes, no. He was a Navy SEAL, like three attempts to get in, but he's a Navy SEAL, so he's legit, but he wasn't running marathons. So he entered a 100-mile race, and he was at mile 70, broken bones in his feet, shit his pants, got back up, finished 100 miles. Jesse Itzler saw him. Jesse was running with a team, and how'd you do that? Like, he's like, I've never run that far in my life. It made David Goggins a legend, because then Jesse hired Goggins to live with him. And he always said, it's nothing about talent. I just will outwork you. So obese, over 100 pounds overweight, 3 attempts, gets into the SEALs. Most people are not going to try. Most people are going to just say, this is what I do. I spray for cockroaches. But he saw the Navy SEALs, and he was inspired by the visual stimulation of people doing the impossible. I would say, for me, I throw talent in the toilet. I say, there is no talent. You have to be like, I'm going to do this work no matter what. Because time is an illusion. So if they say this guy is, talented at, say, solving a problem within the school system, and then he gets into Harvard. And then when he gets into Harvard, he doesn't know work. What happens to him? Nothing.
Right.
Then you got another kid that doesn't get into Harvard, and he's super hardworking, and he wants to always improve, and he learns a bunch of shit, and he makes a couple $100 million, and he invents a bunch of stuff. You're like, well, that guy didn't go to Harvard and do shit. He didn't even get through high school. Richard Branson's dyslexic and left school at 16, and he owns 400 companies, a billionaire.
Insane, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So is that talent?
Yeah, see, it's hard to call that talent. Well, it's impossible to call that talent.
No, that's
They did
resilience.
the work.
That's what exactly. So I think you could be born with an inclination.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean if you don't do the work, they ain't going to take you shit.
We overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we could do in 5 years.
Correct.
We live in these cycles that I want to create a New Year's resolution. I'm going to be awesome this year, and then we fall off in February, and then we say, well, better luck next year, as opposed to saying, look, I failed to accomplish my goal today. It usually is one day. You don't get to the gym in time. You don't, whatever you're trying to accomplish, learn the music or whatever. And we allow ourselves to stop there, as opposed to saying, okay, well, let's just start over again. Okay, I dropped the ball. Let me pick it back up. Now we'll keep going, because we live in a linear life. It's not a cycle. We don't have to wait until next year to start again. And we don't have to wait until Monday to start the new routine or whatever it is. Like now, pick up where you start. Like you mentioned the resourcefulness.
Yeah.
The resourcefulness doesn't come from things falling on your lap. It comes from you creating opportunities and being resourceful with what you already have. And what we all have right now is the ability and time to say, look, I'm going to start today.
Yeah, I think, look, we'll leave with this. There was a guy that I think if you have a clear purpose of what you want, you can block out the noise, and then you can try to figure out what needs to be done to close the gap, because there's always a gap. So are you willing to learn the skills to achieve the purpose?
Let's elaborate on that gap real quick. Where I am and where I want to be.
Yeah.
And then there's the gap in the middle.
Yeah, but if you don't know where you want to be, how the fuck are you going to get there?
Impossible.
So most people don't know what they really want deep down in their soul. And that's why they get confused, or that's why they get off track. So if I tell you I'm going to go run 30 half marathons in 30 days, I've already run the marathons. I just got to show up now, because there's no way I'm going to fail mentally.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. If that means a step at a time, that means 10 diapers doing it, I'm going to get it done, because I have the will to conquer it. So there was a guy that was in Russia, and he used to run with workman boots on, and it was so cold outside. He was in Siberia or something. It was minus whatever it was, which was untrue. So what did he do? He filled his bathtub full of towels, would wet the towels, and run on the spot for 4 hours. Now, you're telling me that under better conditions, that guy's that's resourceful, you're going to beat him? There's no fucking way.
Not a chance.
And what did he do? He won an Olympic medal. They said his style was off. He didn't give a shit. Now, if you're telling me that's talent, that ain't talent. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's like, I'll get in the bathtub and run on the spot. When you have that mentality, I don't give a shit what you're coming up against. That's the mongoose versus the cobra.
Right.
Buy me all day, I'm going to kill you. So I think it's always, what do I want? Why do I want it? What's the price I'm willing to pay to learn the skills? What am I willing to do? What's the price I'm willing to pay? And if you can get it that clear, everything else is just background noise.
Right. And then start doing the work.
Got to start right now. I don't believe if I want to get in shape, I'm going to put down the cookie now. If I'm going to, because how about this? There is no plan that I leave this podcast and make it. I've been in situations where I've laid there and they're like, you got 50-50, your appendix burst. Nothing's guaranteed.
Right.
So you're not guaranteed to do anything in 10 minutes from now. Just fucking get it done on the second. Just do it. Just now. Do it now. Put it down. Shut up. Get it done.
And on that note,
we're out.
Mike Diamond.
All right, brother.
Good stuff. thank you all for listening, and thank you for your comments and shares. It really does mean a lot to us, and Mike and I are both super excited to bring you guys even more in the upcoming weeks. One favor I do have to ask of you is if you could leave a review on iTunes. I've posted the link in the show notes so it's easy to find. It helps more people find the show, and it helps spread the content to those who are ready to get inspired, ready to get motivated, and ready to get educated. So, I'll see you next time on the Access to Success podcast, Project Shine.